The identity of the Sword Saint has finally been revealed in the big 100th chapter of Kagurabachi, and it's definitely a banger, cause a good old villain team up might be in the cards. We got Azami coming back like a demon before catching Yura with a flip kick to the face, and we cut to Shiba to close things out. But of course, all eyes are on Akemura Soga, who did not shy away at all from trying to justify what he did in Shikoku, insisting that he did it based on his beliefs and ideals to protect his country. Interestingly enough, even Yura surprised, not just because Soga is more lucid than anyone could ever be after 18 years of isolation on life support, but also because he was convinced that Soga was actually insane. Which I think is a bit funny, that he knew the truth about the Kamunabi covering up the malediction with lies, but didn't even suspect or at least consider that there could have been more to the Sword Saint that even the Kamunabi didn't know. If you happen to keep up with the Hishaku Hideout podcast I co-host weekly, then you might know that I actually thought way back that Yura would try to team up with the Sword Saint before trying to kill him. And it was basically for this very reason. What Yura and Soga could be capable of together is just scary to think about. But it's also worth wondering, is this just another one of Yura's plans to deceive someone he thinks he can exploit? With the Magatsumi finally in hand, Yura said that he would correct the mistakes of the so-called heroes, and that he approves of the malediction. See, and Soga had even stopped trying to hijack Yura's mind, just to get a sense of the outside world and merely wants to talk. He figured Kunishige had been murdered once he felt the Enchanted Blades moving, which lets us know that the contract binding all the blades and bearers to him allows him to sense the other Enchanted Blades at least to a degree. As they chat, Soga notices that Yura switches up on wanting to kill him, and after Yura suggests they be allies, Soga responds by just asking him who he is, which can be interpreted in a couple of ways. But what's really intriguing is how Yura ignores the question and just finishes his sales pitch in one of the most ominous panels in the whole story. Yura said that he only wanted to wield Magatsumi because he felt he had to if its original wielder was unfit to do so. But since that's not the case, he proposes that they lead with the Enchanted Blades together. However, their conversation is cut short by one Soshiro Azami, who's very much alive and still giving everything he's got to stop Yura once and for all. After shooting off his other arm with a dragonfly, Yura eats a nasty kick to end the sequence, as Azami embraces becoming a demon, recalling what led him down this path in the first place. Before the chapter ends, it transitions to Shiba anxiously waiting for a phone call, which seems to indicate he'll be on the move soon. But okay, let's get into Akemura Soga, cause chapter 100 also lets us know that he's actually Kunishige's brother-in-law, specifically the younger brother of Chihiro's mother. So yeah, presumably the only family member Chihiro has left is a genocidal maniac who has absolutely no regrets. Looking forward to that interaction. Anyway, things suddenly kind of start to make a lot more sense, cause we can now see where Soga being Kunishige's strongest ally comes from. At the same time, I feel like this chapter begins to paint a picture that will eventually add context to all that happened leading up to and during the Seitei War. What kind of man was Kunishige before he became a father? Before he realized the true horrors of his creations? I would bet that he was a very different man. Likely a hardcore patriot who felt like he was just doing what he thought was right for the sake of his people. Sounds like a certain someone, right? I mean, the way I see it, I think things kind of went down like this. My theory is that it was Japan, not the Islanders, who first instigated the conflict by secretly infiltrating Shikoku and stealing from their Datsenseki. I think the Islanders only invaded after they learned that some of their Datsenseki was stolen, which kicks off the Seitei War as we know it. At this point, Kunishige and Akemura were in their early to mid-20s, and like I alluded to, were likely very passionate about protecting their country from outside threats. It's not a stretch to think that they were indoctrinated into that kind of thinking. And sometime after the Islanders arrive on the shores of Japan, I believe that Kunishige and Akemura, along with everyone else, were manipulated into wanting to go to war by having the nature of the invasion kept from them. In other words, the Japanese government and counter-sorcery army's version was that Shikoku invaded first, and that they only responded by going and stealing Datsenseki to be able to defend themselves. From the perspective of Kunishige and Akemura, their land was being invaded by ruthless savages with a kind of power they had never seen before. And as the prestigious Sword Saint and the greatest swordsmith respectively, they probably felt inclined to step up big time without a second thought. And thus, the first 6 Enchanted Blades weren't forged to root out evil and protect the weak, but rather slaughter during times of war. Now for Kunishige, as we all know, eventually comes this moment of realization and repentance. He began to witness the weight of what he's done, and I think shortly after could have found out that he was lied to and taken advantage of. But by then it's too late. There's already too much blood on his hands, and regardless if he was played, he can't help but feel that he is still ultimately to blame. This would be around the last month or two of the Seitei War. Kunishige has just become a father, since it's confirmed Chihiro was born over a month and a half before the war ended. And so it's a lot happening and all sorts of emotions hitting Kunishige at once. And then maybe, just maybe, Chihiro's mother loses her life in an attack perpetrated by the Shikoku military. And whether Kunishige had the chance to tell Soga the truth about them being manipulated or not doesn't even matter, because it all goes out the window for him and he becomes hell-bent on wiping out a whole race of people with the personal motivation to now vindicate his ideals. Despite the pain, Kunishige on the other hand could not turn his back to his mistakes, and so he did the only things he could do: condemn Soga, take back the Enchanted Blades, go into hiding and forge a new blade with the right intentions so it would hopefully one day be wielded to right his wrongs. And that brings us to present day. Now remember, that's only a theory of mine, and a pretty cliche one to be honest, but one that I think could also really work. I'm not sure what to think in regard to how Akemura currently feels about Kunishige though. Like, yeah, he probably felt betrayed at one point, but I would assume there's some mixed feelings there. And that goes hand in hand with what he thinks of Yura after all he's done. And this is a big reason why it's so hard to say if this Yura Soga team up is actually gonna happen. Shit, I'm here for it, but it's just rare to see two forces of this magnitude coming together unless they're forced to. So if it does happen, I think it will be short-lived, mainly just to get out of their current predicament if, let's say, Shiba teleports inside Kamunabi HQ with Chihiro and Samura or something along those lines. After that, what unfolds is anyone's guess. Maybe Soga backstabs Yura and then takes over the Hishaku, or maybe Yura knows exactly how to keep him around as an enforcer of sorts. Right now, anything is game, and the way Hokuto has been rolling out reveals lately, I get the feeling that we won't have to wait long to see what kind of rabbit Yura and or Soga will pull out of the hat. But that's all from me on this one. Let me know down in the comments where you think we're headed from here. If it comes to it, who are you riding with, Yura or Soga? I'm a Yura glazer, but I say let's get that generational team up, cause I know that shit would be legendary. Anyways, I appreciate you staying until the end of the video. Stick around for more bocce content. Much love and take care. Peace.